Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel where we're on to the final, currently I would like to say, not final, she's like a long way away from being finished, but current final of my Everqueen streams that I've got to be edited down. I've got one more that I actually have to edit that it isn't ready to be made into a video yet, which is why we're here with this one. And then I get to stream it again, which is going to be nice. It's been like a year, I think. Unfortunately, this model means a lot to me because the model itself was a gift from a very, very close friend, and another close friend asked me to start painting it on stream so that he could follow it along. Unfortunately, one of those two people is now passed, so whenever I take the mini out to start painting it again, I get a little bit upset, and then I get annoyed because my hands are shaking a lot more than they used to. Have a chronic illness, that's what happens, and my eyesight's going a little bit, so I'm worried I'll never finish her, but whenever I take her out to start doing more painting on her, I get a little worried at the same time. But that's not what we're here for. No, today we are going to talk about a character that's very near and dear to the Everqueen story, for lots of different reasons, but is also kind of in theme with the October spookiness. What do I mean by this? We are going to talk about Malekith, the Witch King, the biggest, the baddest, the scariest badass that there is in Warhammer. I mean, that's a lie. There are lots of vampires, demons, and all sorts of other things that are just as scary, but the Witch King is the one that happens to just, I don't know, stick around for the longest time. What do I mean by that? He is the oldest living elf. Except his mother, sorry. Marathi is the oldest living elf. He's the second living oldest at like 5,000 years old. He's old as fuck, boys. So, there is a prophecy about the Witch King. Apparently, they believe it's about the Witch King. And it goes, "And lo, he shall rule with a dark hand, and his shadow shall touch upon every land. Steel will be his skin, and fire will be his blood. In hatred will he conquer all before him. No blade forged of man, dwarf, or elf shall endure him fear. Though it will come to pass that the firstborn son of noble blood shall rise to power, the child will be learned in the darkest arts, and he will raise an army of terrible beasts. Thus will the Dark King fall, slain by neither blade nor arrow, but by a sorcerous power of darkest magic, and so shall his body be consumed in the flames, and for all eternity burn." So Malekith is also named Malerion, which I did not know, and he is called the Witch King of Nagaroth, the Dread King, and called the Witch King of Nagaroth, the Dread King, or often just the Witch King. He is the monarch of the fractious Druchi kingdoms of the continent of Nagaroth in the New World and the ruler of the Dark Elves. Born the son of the Phoenix King Anarion, the greatest elven hero to have ever lived, Malekith is ancient and powerful beyond mortal reckoning. A being who has lived for thousands upon thousands of years, gathering a great treasure trove of magical power that few can rival within the world. Long ago, this mighty lord of the elven race sought to claim the Isles of Ulthuan by sheer force of will, cruelty, and bloodshed, but the flames of Azurian denied his right to rule as his father's heir and left him scarred by fire and twisted with hatred. Near death, Malekith was taken away and healed by his mother, the sorceress and consort of Anarion, Marathi, and removed to the lands of Nagaroth to recuperate and plot his seizure of power. While there, the horrifically burned Malekith was encased in a suit of magical, black, full-plate armour, the plates of the suit fusing themselves to Malekith's own tortured flesh. To the brow of the great horned helmet placed over his head was welded the circlet of iron, and his body transformed, Malekith took the persona of the Destroyer and now sought to reclaim from which he was denied. In the years since, Malekith has led many great wars against the High Elf usurpers, but each time has been undone by cruel fate or the incompetence of his own craven underlings. Yet the Witch King is immortal and knows he will outlast those who foolishly believe themselves his betters. The day is fast approaching where old debts and insults will finally be paid, and Malekith will do anything within his power to hasten its arrival. Malekith firmly believes that if he can't rule Ulthuan, then no one else will. He is regularly known as saying, "If they shall not bow to me, the rightful ruler of Ulthuan, then I shall see each tower crumble and every soul scourged in pain until they beg for my rule." The first of the great events in Malekith's life, when he was passed over for the Phoenix Throne. Malekith's first memories were of the blue skies over his homeland of Naggaroth. To this day, he has vivid recollections of his first horse ride, the sight of dragons moving across an empty sky, the cloud-girthed mountains, the emerald seas. He could still remember talking with his father Anarion in their few quiet moments together when he was young before the great Phoenix King's heroic death. For many elves, the natural successor to Anarion as the next Phoenix King of Ulthuan in the wake of the Great Catastrophe was his son by his consort, the sorceress Malekith. Having been raised in the court of Naggaroth, Malekith was an accomplished warrior, skillful general, and powerful spellweaver. He asked that he be allowed to honour his father's memory and take up his place as the next elven monarch, but there were voices raised against this course of action. Some of the princes of Ulthuan asked for a cooler, steadier hand to guide the elves in the rebuilding of their civilization. They whispered about the darkness that had beset the realm of Naggaroth, and of the manner of the son who had been raised in the court of Anarion. In the end, these doubters prevailed, and, with seeming good grace, Malekith accepted the prince's choice of Bel-Shanaar as the next Phoenix King, through his mother. Though his mother, Marathi, ranted and railed against the inequity heaped upon him, Malekith, the son of Anarion, was the first to bow his knee to Bel-Shanaar and swear fealty. The Age of Betrayal. With the demonic invasion of the known world caused by the Great Catastrophe finally defeated, the elves of the island continent of Ulthuan looked to explore the mortal world that had been left changed by the coming of chaos. Malekith quit Ulthuan, claiming that the new Phoenix King Bel-Shanaar would be able to rule the isle more soundly without the heir of Anarion close at hand. The Prince of Naggaroth travelled the world, where small colonies were growing upon the shores of the forest-swathed lands across the ocean. Here the elves met the dwarves, and soon the two races were fighting side by side, their armies waging war against the fierce orcs of the mountain and the hideous chaos beastmen of the deep woods. In the battle against brutal greenskins and warped monsters, Malekith perfected his fighting skills and rose to become a great leader of the elves. So great was his reputation that Bel-Shanaar appointed Malekith to be his ambassador to the High King of the Dwarves, Snorri Whitebeard. As well as campaigning across the lands that would eventually become the Empire, Bretonnia and the Badlands, Malekith travelled even further abroad. He quested amongst the world's edge mountains and made war against the primal tribes of men in the blasted, chaosed wastes. It was here in the frozen north that Malekith came across a dead city, built by no human, dwarfish or elven hand. He wandered through its ice-trapped streets between colossus buildings that hurt the eyes to look upon. The shifting ice had ruptured an ancient vault, and within it Malekith found an artifact older even than the elves. It was a metal crown imbued with powers of sorcery, known in myth as the Circlet of Iron. Malekith took the Circlet of Iron and resolved to unravel its secrets. It awoke in him a dark curiosity, and from that day forth Malekith turned his will to studying the forbidden depths of magic, the power of chaos itself. While Malekith explored the wider world, new travails beset Ulthuan in his absence. With the threat of the demons gone, many of the lessons of hard war were forgotten. Many elves became indolent and selfish, indulging their heightened senses with ceremonies dedicated to exotic, forbidden gods. From the ancient temples of Naggaroth they had risen, cults of luxury, pleasure and excess that grew within the cities and spread across the kingdoms. These cults practiced obscene rituals of debasement and sacrifice, and more followers were drawn to dark shrines dedicated to gods that should not be worshipped. Many of these elves sought to escape the bitter grief that the Chaos Incursion had left within their lives. In temples filled with beating drums, haunting pipes and narcotic vapours, they danced and feasted and sang blasphemous praises. Bel-Shannar seemed powerless to quell the growing unrest in his realm. The pleasure cults were gaining more sway with every passing season. The unknown but foul heart of the cults was Naggareth, but Bel-Shannar was hesitant to act against the lands of Anarian's people. Princes caught in the grip of the cults began to mutter that Bel-Shannar was weak and a usurper of the Phoenix throne. When Malekith arrived in Ulthuan, he was heralded as a saviour. He vowed to hunt down the cults and exterminate them, claiming that no kingdom would be beyond his wrath, not even Naggareth. When Malekith discovered that his mother was the chief architect of the cults, he renounced her and ordered that she be imprisoned upon her capture, along with thousands of her misguided disciples. Nobody was above Malekith's scrutiny, from the lowest farmer to the most vaunted prince. Those cultists who surrendered were sent to the castles of Naggareth to be released from their delusions, yet it seemed nothing short of outright war would quell the rise of the decadent cults. After assaulting Alnec with the aid of Prince Findelwil and Princess Athiel, co-rulers of Ellyrian, Prince Thyril, made Prince of Safari and one of the last remaining pupils of the dragon tamer Prince Belthaner of Yvresse, and Prince Charil, along with his son Lorichar of Crace, he took his mother back to Tor Alnec after she had accepted his deal of clemency in exchange for the leadership of the cults. Then, for about 2 decades, they surged out of hiding and sent the Naggarothi army into paroxysms of conflict, forcing Malekith to take shelter with Bel-Shannar in Tor Anok. Malekith asked the Phoenix King to convene the Council of Princes. He wished to request control of Ulthuan's armies so that he might cast out the cults of pleasure. Yet even as the princes gathered at the shrine of Azirion, a greater part of Malekith's plan was set into motion. Unbeknownst to the other kingdoms, Naggareth's armies marched, bolstered by depraved cultists and practitioners of dark magic. Oblivious to the peril that descended upon their lands, the princes gathered to hear Malekith. His first pronouncement was to declare Bel-Shannar a member of the cults. Malekith said that Bel-Shannar had taken the coward's route rather than to be brought forth before the princes, and had poisoned himself before he could be rightfully tried. With Ulthuan on the verge of civil war again, Malekith would assume his rightful position as Phoenix King and avert the coming disaster. Many of the princes were not swayed by Malekith's speech and denounced him as a murderer and a traitor. At that moment, agents from Naggareth entered the shrine and fighting broke out between those loyal to Malekith and those that opposed him. As blood was spilled upon the marble floor, Malekith strode into the sacred flames to accept Azirion's blessing. Malekith's screams echoed around the chamber, silencing the fighting. The flames engulfed the Prince of Naggareth, stripping away hair, skin, and flesh. With a final shriek of agony, Malekith held himself back from the burning judgment of Azirion, and his charred body lay smoking upon the ground. Malekith's disciples took up his body and fought their way clear, leaving most of Ulthuan's princes slain in the temple. So, that is how the Witch King of Naggareth comes to being. Of course, there's a lot more of his story. That's just like the key first point in it. And I figure, considering that this isn't going to be much longer, I thought we'd call it here. And then we can talk more about Malekith whenever I get any of the other streams that I've done edited down. So, hello everybody. Welcome back. So, this is my second attempt at recording this because I just figured out that my microphone wasn't picking up anything that I did. I have already pre-shuffled this and I wanted to show you what we got. So we got the Shepherd, which is a really good card. It's a card of celebration and family coming together, enjoying their time together, celebrating life, death, good, bad. Well, good, not bad. You don't celebrate bad things unless it turns into a good thing. But good things are coming to us, and that's I was gonna like reshuffle it and everything, but this card is so good I wanted to share it with you. So that's today's card. Look at the good thing. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be more detailed than that because I have work to do. Now I've got to go back to work. So thank you so much for watching this video today, everybody. I do hope you enjoyed it. We're doing Made of Scare video tomorrow, so if you've been enjoying that game, please do stick around and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Have fun and goodbye.